6:30. Mr. Mayor, we have all members present. You may begin.
All right, thank you, Linda. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome all members of the committee and welcome everyone who's watching us on the live stream this evening. We're glad that you're with us. The second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare. Don't see any, so if you have one, you can declare one anytime. Third item is additions and deletions and amendments. We don't have any of those. No open forum requests this evening. No open forum requests this evening. We do have one delegation, and it is from Becky Smith, the director for the Center for Municipal Innovation with the Municipal Innovation Council, and she's here to give us an update on the council's activities. Good evening, Becky. The floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors. I'm happy to be here tonight to provide you with an update on behalf of the Municipal Innovation Council. So my name is Becky Smith. I took over for Dave Shorey, the previous innovation officer, who's now with Georgian College. Prior to joining the MIC, I worked for the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, specifically in South Bruce, where my work focused on communications and developing relationships with both the local and regional stakeholders. Prior to that, I worked for the local member of parliament for about 10 years, doing both engagement, communications, as well as helping to bridge that connection with the grassroots across Huron-Bruce. I was born and raised just outside of Port Elgin, where I still live with my husband and 2 children. I'm happy to be taking on the work of the MIC. I'm proud to have roots in Bruce County, and this opportunity really seemed like a perfect fit. So the MIC was founded in 2020 when 8 municipalities came together to identify better ways to deliver services and meet the needs of people in their communities. The MIC is currently in year 3 of a 3-year pilot project. The representatives around the table at the MIC are the CAOs at the lower tiers and the corporate strategic initiatives specialists from the County of Bruce. The program has been very successful to date, and we are continuing to build momentum. So the Center for Municipal Innovation at the Nuclear Innovation Institute supports the work of the Municipal Innovation Council. With the departure of Dave Shorey in September, the NII stepped in to take over the day-to-day operations and provide the resources for the program to be successful. The NII has supported the MIC since the onset, and through this partnership, we've been able to leverage NII resources such as innovation teams, partners, members, researchers, and administrative staff to all help advance municipal innovation. When the MIC was formally launched, the partners came together for a working session to identify the key issues that the MIC should focus on. And these are the original 4 areas of focus for the MIC. So construction and infrastructure, obviously recognizing the tremendous growth that's occurred in Bruce County and still continues today. Municipal sustainability, so ensuring that municipalities consider what sustainability means to their organizations. Information technology and digital services. I think we've recognized this more so than ever given the digital shift of the pandemic, but the digital economy is here to stay and will be key to our future success. And livable communities. So being a livable community means having access to affordable housing, transportation, healthcare, education, recreation, and so much more. So how we're approaching the work we do at the MIC is really centered around 3 things. So first, identifying areas for collaboration. So the MIC was founded on the premise of members coming together, collaborating to discuss the issues and to think creatively and develop solutions to shared problems. So we look to create opportunities for people to come together, build relationships, and really solve common problems that all of us face. Secondly, find solutions that create efficiencies and cost savings. So those solutions and the breadth of the MIC's work is to ultimately find savings and efficiencies within municipal operations. And thirdly, improving service delivery, not only for our residents, but also local businesses, investors, as well as visitors and newcomers to our area. So I've been in the role now just over 4 months, and one of the things that we recognized early on is that our leaders at the table at the MIC face a number of day-to-day challenges around IT, HR, and other administrative areas. So there was a need to provide opportunities to share those experiences and learn from one another. And what you see there is a screenshot of our MIC Solutions portal, portal. The portal was designed to support a variety of challenges that our MIC members collectively face on day-to-day issues. So we were able to leverage existing work that had already been done at the NII to save on costs. And we developed a secure platform for collaboration in 6 weeks to share documents and information to help create those day-to-day efficiencies. So we launched this tool with the MIC in early January, and we're really in the early stages, but we see this as a tool that we can continue to build organically over time to support their needs. One of the projects that we're actually just about to wrap up right now is a joint IT business analysis review. So the pandemic has forced all of us to significantly shift technology adoption and digitization worldwide. And I think we've heard all too often stories of municipalities that have fallen victim to cybersecurity attacks. So for this project, we were able to leverage funding through the Municipal Modernization Program, and we hired a consultant, GHD Digital. And so recognizing that all of our municipalities are at different levels of digital maturity, this work will provide us with some actionable recommendations that we can collectively work towards implementing that will focus on improving our cybersecurity, exploring what a shared service delivery model could look like for IT support, looking for ways to consolidate our spending around both hardware and software purchases to find those cost savings or economies of scale, and a roadmap that will support all of us collectively moving forward that will improve our digital maturity, deliver services more efficiently to the public, and really create efficiencies within the administration. So we began this work in early January with GHD. We're just wrapping it up now. Those reports will be coming to councils in March. And we've been able to leverage all of the funding for this program through the Municipal Modernization Program. So we've done all of this at no cost to the MIC. Another project that we have ongoing right now is a mapping project. So we've partnered with Acopia AI to deliver a digital mapping solution that uses the existing 2020 swoop data from the province, artificial intelligence, as well as state-of-the-art machine learning to provide us with an accurate and up-to-date digital representation of Bruce County. This information will provide our municipalities as well as the local conservation authorities with 21st century data for greater efficiency and better informed decision-making. The data will include all building footprints, roads, bridges, impervious surfaces, forests, waterways, as well as a digital terrain model, a digital surface model, and a 3D rendering of Bruce County. So by using this innovative artificial intelligence-based technology, we will save countless hours. I've had some of the GIS staff tell me months and years worth of manual in-house GIS work by using this type of technology. So some of the benefits, we see this creating efficiencies within the building department, helping to streamline that planning and permitting process, allows us to plan better so that we can have development ready communities, and also lots of areas around environmental stewardship that this data would be useful for. So we are currently engaging with Acopia. We are expecting to have all the data back by early April, and then we will be integrating that data into the existing ArcGIS software for all the lower tier municipalities, as well as the county to have to use here. And we've also been able to leverage funding through the National Disaster Mitigation Program for this project, and the remainder of the funds are coming from the Municipal Innovation Council. So another project this year we'll be piloting at Station Beach in Kincardine is a smart beach project. So we've been able to work with some expert researchers from the University of Windsor, Dr. Chris Hauser, and this is something that we see that could be scalable along the coast in the future, but uses a range of both sensing technology and algorithms to really identify those safety risks to help prevent drowning. So the MIC did contribute some funds to this project, and we were able to leverage those funds for some additional funding that will help support Dr. Hauser's research team over the course of that 3-year period, and looking to add another shoreline community to that project in year 2 and another one in year 3. So work's already underway on this, and we will be sharing more information as the summer approaches. The MIC was really founded on the premise of members coming together to find those savings and efficiencies, and we know there's lots of evidence of existing duplication or overlap. So the MIC will be offering some workshop and training opportunities this year, really to help facilitate best practices around emerging challenges in the workplace, and hopefully As things begin to open, we will be utilizing the space here at the Nuclear Innovation Institute to bring people together. So one of the areas that we're looking at offering workshop opportunities around is equity, diversity, and inclusion. We will be actually launching our first workshop tomorrow. So we've been able to partner with the Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership and offer this training to municipal staff across both Bruce and Grey County. We've had a tremendous response from the workshops. We had initially planned 3 workshops, and because of they filled up, I think within 4 or 5 days, we ended up adding a couple more, and I think there's still people on a wait list. So looking at potentially adding a few more in April to help expand that training across both Grey and Bruce County. You know, by working with our neighbors in Grey County, it really allows us to help advance that conversation at a regional level and giving municipal employees the opportunity to broaden their knowledge and discuss how we can build more welcoming and inclusive communities across our region. We'll also be offering some opportunities around mental health in the workplace. I mean, the pandemic has led to challenges around mental health with increased work demands and feelings of loneliness from working from home. And we want to ensure that we're collectively supporting our municipal employees so that they're healthier, happier, which in turn leads to more productive workplaces. We're also exploring lots of other exciting opportunities, so stay tuned. We'll be sharing more information about those as we move forward. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. My contact information is there, and I am just a short walk away from the municipal office if you wanted to pop over here, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure. Thank you, Becky. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Start with Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, no question from me, but Becky, I'm really excited to see you in this role and to see where the MIC continues to grow. You mentioned quite a few buzzwords for me, in particular, the cybersecurity and potentials for economies of scale with the technological purchases. That's certainly something we've talked about many times in budget discussions about the total cost of ownership of software purchases and how we can leverage that. And then obviously these workshops that you just discussed, I think they'd be great. And I'm hopeful that in the future they might be open to council members as well if the opportunity presents itself. So thanks for coming and providing us this update tonight.
Okay, thank you. Further questions or comments? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Becky, for the presentation. I too was struck by the breadth of the work that you're doing, but in particular the technological modernization and the bulk software purchases. Our municipality and a couple other organizations that I have touch points with are going through a bit of a transformation of our technology and information sharing technology right now. Is this directly related to the work of the MIC, and are we doing this in conjunction with other municipalities who are member municipalities, or are we doing this on our own? Are you even aware of what we're doing here?
I think what our project did is really look at all of the municipalities collectively and really look for those joint opportunities. So like, for instance, like with the existing financial software around Keystone, I know there are some municipalities that are looking at upgrading. So what this project has really done is provided a roadmap to say, okay, you know, municipalities will be looking at purchasing this in this year and really start to line that up so that we can take advantage of those economies of scale. And they've done a really good job of laying that out. The report is almost finalized, so I'm excited for it to come to councils because I think there will be significant cost savings that we can look at as we're all upgrading together. If we do it collectively, there are cost savings associated with that, and I think that's clearly laid out in the report.
Okay, so we can look forward to then a report that'll actually put some quantities around where we're having these savings and, as you say, the economies of scale.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for you. And thank you, Becky, for a great report. And I was excited when the MIC was formed, and it's done a lot of great work, and it looks like you're working on some fantastic projects. The mapping project is sorely needed for those updates, and I'm excited to see what happens there. You said that the data should be back by early April. And then it will be given to municipalities for them to integrate it with their GIS information. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, so the county is going to lead the integration of all that data, and then they will make that available to the lower tier municipalities.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And then the pilot project, the beach safety project, that's wonderful because that's always, of course, a great concern to us. So anyway, thank you for the good work, and I look forward to seeing what happens this year.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions or comments? Councilor Davinsky.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Becky, for the presentation. Very informative. And I've got a question. There was an example within the report saying finding solutions that create efficiencies and cost savings. And I'm assuming that's for the member communities that are members of this group. Can I get examples of what has been done to improve the outcome of residents? I know the beach is one, but is there anything else that this group, the MIC, has produced to help residents?
Well, I've been in the role for almost 4 months now. I think with the joint IT work, I mean, a lot of that will focus on staff efficiencies, but there will be efficiencies for ratepayers and members of the public as that work evolves over the next 5 years. I think we have a five-year roadmap for that project as that report's being finalized. And then, you know, one of the things on my to-do list this year is to really take a deep dive into the budget all the way back to 2020 to really start quantifying and identifying some of those cost savings as the MIC pilot, you know, kind of approaches its end. And we look to, obviously, cost savings are very important for all the member municipalities, but really looking to provide that information in a concrete way that can really help you understand what the MIC has done over the last 3 years, or 2 years, I guess now, but will be 3 years at the end of the pilot project.
Yeah, because, you know, I know the various municipalities have a levy to pay into the MIC, and where's that money come? Well, it comes from the taxpayer. And I just want to make sure the taxpayer is going to see some bang for its buck, if you will. Thank you very much.
Sure. Councilor Grace.
Thanks. I was just going to provide another example. When our Environmental Stewardship Committee was doing its research on waste reduction and diversion, one of the documents that we looked at was the waste management, the study that was done through the MIC, and I think presented in November 2020, if I remember correctly, but it had a lot of examples of how taxpayers might realize efficiencies. Of course, it was a county-wide study, but there's a lot of really valuable information in there, broken down by each municipality. And I think that if, you know, the intent of that study was to look forward to see what efficiencies might be realized. The other example I would give would be the affordable housing work that the MIC helped the task force with right after the task force finished. You know, sort of collating some ideas and adding to strategies. So I appreciate the work of the group.
Okay, are there further questions or comments? I think Councilor Grace really hit the nail on the head there. There's so many more things that the MIC has done beyond what's just in the list that Becky has presented us this evening. But that's not to say this list isn't very impressive. It is, you know, the one that stands out to me, and I hope it's not because I'm too much of a nerd, but this mapping project is really critical and will have a direct impact on property owners across the municipality, across municipalities, across Bruce County. You know, as it is right now, you may have a piece of property that's high and dry up on a hill. But because of the way mapping was done in the 1970s, that your property may be in what's called a screening buffer held by in the regulation of the Conservation Authority. If we get accurate mapping to a 21st century standard, we can eliminate those screening buffers and we can just have regulation mapping. So instead of Joe Smith having to go and pay $500 to a regulations officer at the Conservation Authority to come to his property and determine it's never been regulated. Now we will know that it isn't regulated. No conservation officer will ever have to show up. Joe Smith will save $500 and the Conservation Authority won't have to spend the time for their regulations officer to wander around the countryside looking at properties that have never been regulated. It will make the authority more efficient and it will save money for ratepayers. And that will apply to anybody who wants to do anything almost anywhere in our community and in communities across Bruce County. Like that's a real hard benefit for people. And that's just another example. So anyway, it's tremendous work that the MIC is doing. And I just want to thank you, Becky. And one thing, just to conclude my comments, you mentioned that you've got some interest from Grey County municipalities in coming to some of these workshops you're putting on. I hope that as we work our way through 2022, we'll put the pitch on to some of those Grey County municipalities to join the MIC when we consider renewing the program going forward. I'm very hopeful that the existing members will re-up for another term after this one runs out at the end of the year, and then we can bring in some new members, because I think we'd be even better off if we included municipalities in Grey and Huron and even further afield. So anyway, that's my plug. But thank you very much, Becky, for your time this evening. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're now moving on. Sorry, I just am. Agenda back up. All right, so now we're on to item 6, public meeting. And this is a public meeting under the Planning Act. So we're going to be handling that like we would handle any public meeting on a planning agenda. So just before we start the public meeting, just for the folks watching, I'll just run through how the meeting will work. We will begin by hearing from our planner, after which we will hear from members of the public, beginning with the applicant or their representative. And then if there are members of the public who wish to speak to the application, we will hear from them after that, following which there will be an opportunity for questions or comments from members of the committee. So this is Z 2021-058 for Thorncrest Outfitters on Carlisle Street. And we'll begin with the presentation from the planner, Ms. Mugabe. Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just need a few minutes to share my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so we have received a zoning amendment application submitted by Timothy and Jeanette Thorn. Their property is 484 Carlisle Street in Southampton. The site is located at the termination of Carlisle Street, immediately adjacent to Dennis Dam Park and a short walking distance from the Saugeen River. The main building on the subject lands was built as an inn in the 1840s. The inn operated on the site until the 1950s. The building has recently been restored and is currently used as a single detached dwelling. The landowner is seeking permission to re-establish the inn within this building. The landowners own Thorncrest Outfitters and have 2 stores, one in Port Elgin and another in Southampton. In addition to the retail component, their business provides a canoe and kayak rental service. The rental equipment and business vehicles are stored on the subject lands. Last year, they obtained a building permit to construct a building to store the equipment. Construction is almost complete. The applicant is now seeking permission to convert that storage building to an outfitters store that would cater to destination travelers. So this will be the third outfitter stores that they would own. The site has two zones. In the front area, it's zoned environmental protection. That's in the blue, and then the green is the agricultural zone. This zoning amendment application is seeking to change the agricultural zoned portion to commercial recreation. Now, not all of the uses permitted by the commercial recreation zone are desirable or appropriate for this site, so they are seeking a limited range of uses. Specifically the renting and or retailing of kayaks, canoes, related accessories, apparel, and other goods that are typically found in an outfitter store. They are also seeking permission, as I've already explained, to reestablish the inn. The building has 8 guest rooms. They're also seeking permission to have a single detached dwelling as an additional permitted use on the site. Relief is requested to reduce the front yard setback of the inn building from 7.5 meters to 4.22 meters. Some additional information. From a provincial policy statement viewpoint, this is the prime agricultural areas. The designation in the Bruce County official plan is agricultural areas and hazard land areas. I should mention that there was, in conjunction with this application, there was an official plan amendment application that was also filed. We processed that official plan amendment application and County Council has approved it, but there has been an appeal filed by the neighbor up on the hill. The zoning on the subject land is agricultural and environmental protection. We've circulated the application to the departments and agencies. Town staff is very supportive of this application. They have commented that the enhancement of recreational commercial activities in proximity to rural and natural recreation amenities should be encouraged. They've also commented that the agricultural interim report that was produced by the county for Plan the Bruce indicates support for on-site commercial activities of this nature. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, they take interest when we have applications to amend the county official plan. So they did not submit written comments, but we met with them and they had wanted the applicant to address how the minimum distance separation formula has been addressed and to also adequately explore other areas outside of prime agricultural areas and lower priority agricultural lands where the proposed use could be cited. So to address the ministry's comments, the applicant's planning consultant, Mr. Davidson, has done some research and submitted an addendum to the planning justification report. We have reviewed that report and we are satisfied that the comments from the ministry have been addressed. The Conservation Authority has commented that the natural heritage features on the site, this includes fish habitat and its adjacent lands, significant woodlands, potentially significant wildlife habitat, and potential habitat of endangered species and threatened species. An environmental impact study has not been required because the proposed uses would occur within the existing buildings. We received several emails, comments from the neighbor, and I'll just go through some of those comments. I've tried to respond to some of them in the report, and I was also responding to some of the comments as we received the emails. After we prepared the report, we received yet another submission from the neighbor and also a letter of support from the Southampton BIA. So those two submissions were not included in the report. So I'll just quickly go through the comments from the neighbor. The first comment is she was questioning why a business has been allowed in a residential agricultural zone. So the applicants have explained that town staff allowed them to use the subject land for the storage and maintenance of canoes and kayaks as long as they were not having customers on the property or receiving monies. but that this has changed as of spring last year, when the town issued a letter allowing them to rent boats from the subject lands. So I believe that is the business that that is referred to in the comment. The neighbor is also questioning why construction has not been stopped, because the building permit that was issued for the personal storage building was for a personal storage building, not a superstore. The signage on the site that indicates the building under construction is for a future superstore. I think there's a bit of confusion with a storage building that's under construction. The building permit was issued for the storage building because it's a permitted use under the current zone. But to convert that storage building to an outfitters retail store requires planning approval. So hence the subject application to change the zone to a commercial recreation zone, which permits a fishing supply store and also an inn, amongst other uses. So I think the applicants may have gotten ahead of themselves by putting signage about the proposed store before decisions had been made on the planning applications. The next comment from the neighbor is that a retail store in a rural setting will increase traffic along Carlisle Street, and that traffic produces noise in addition to the noise that will be produced daily from a large retail outlet. The landowner has a bit of history to this area, and he has explained that at one point Carlisle Street was the main thoroughfare to Owen Sound before the bridge was built in downtown Southampton. And he noted that traffic in the area is now attributable mostly to people visiting the conservation area. The traffic goes up in the summer due to the large number of fishermen and tourists that use the park. The retail store that's proposed at this location is intended to be a specialty shop that will cater to destination travelers. So as such, it is not expected that there will be a significant increase in traffic levels attributable to that specific use. Then the next comment is that the notice of application is requesting comments from members of the community. However, construction of the large superstore is almost completed. It looks like the town has already approved the retail store by allowing it to be built. I think I've already spoken to the storage building and need not repeat myself. The last of those comments, the neighbor was asking if we had circulated the application to the Saugeen First Nations bands. And the answer is yes. And we did get comments from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. And their comment was that the change in building use would not impact them. What they would like to see is applications presented to them for comment before construction takes place. So as a summary, this zoning bylaw amendment application is seeking to change the agricultural zoned area to commercial recreation special. Approval of the application would permit limited retail commercial uses and a single detached dwelling and accessory uses. The recommendation is for this application to be received as information. The intent is that we'll come back at a subsequent meeting with a recommendation report that would also address the comments that would have been received at tonight's meeting. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. So we will then open the public portion of the meeting, and we'll begin with the applicant or their representative. I saw Mr. Davidson come in earlier. And I also think Mr. Thorne is present as well. So there's Mr. Davidson. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So my name is Ron Davidson. I'm a planning consultant and I represent Mr. and Mrs. Thorne. I think Tim's on the line as well. And I think he wants to say just a few words when I'm done. I will try to keep this brief. As you know, Tim and his wife own and operate Thorncrest Outfitters, and they have two stores, one in Port Allen and one in Southampton. And they plan on keeping both stores open, even if this one, this third one is approved by council. As you're quite aware, they offer a canoe and kayak service where they pick people up and drop people off, and it's been quite successful. And they have been using their the subject property to store some of the equipment for a bit. As you heard, they've built a brand new building. There's obviously no promises there, but they're certainly hoping that they'll be able to use it for not only continued storage and for a place for people to come and I guess park and sign up to go on these excursions, but also a small component for retail. And then the second part, as you heard Barbara talk about, is the house itself. I was in it. It's quite neat, if I'm allowed to use that word. It was established as an inn, as you heard, well over 100 years ago. And today, when you go inside, it's still set up like that. There's a bar or tavern, whatever you want to call it, inside. And same with the washroom. I don't know how to describe it, but it's an old-fashioned washroom. It's really neat to see. As you heard from the county planner, Barbara, say, this required an official plan amendment, and that was approved, as Mr. Mayor, you're aware, because you sit on county council. That was a little over a month ago, and unfortunately, it was appealed. So I don't have a whole lot more to say. You heard Barbara talk about how these lands are designated agricultural. That's kind of, if I may use the word, it's silly that they're designated agricultural, because if you know the site, it's partway down a hill. It's a very small lot. It's far removed from agriculture. I suppose if you had to do your official plan all over again, you'd likely designate them rural, which is a little bit more permissive in terms of uses, as opposed to agricultural. Agricultural has the wrong connotation there, that these should be used for agricultural purposes. And I would suggest that that's never going to happen, just given the size and its location, and the fact that there's a building on there, a couple buildings on there. Just quickly, with regard to the hunters, we've heard their concerns before. I don't think there would be any impact on them. That's my impression, or my feeling. And I guess if we end up at the Ontario Land Tribunal, I'll be making that argument. With regard to traffic, I was speaking with Tim earlier today about this, and he would certainly agree that this isn't going to be a high generator of traffic. Right now, you've got people going down there, as you heard from Barbara, to go fishing. It's a conservation area, and you're going to continue to have people going down there to kayak, to get off the kayaks, to get picked up. So whether or not this is approved, there's still going to be traffic there. If you ask Tim and his wife if they're hoping there'd be an increase in traffic, they would like to think yes, because that would be obviously good for their business. But it's not like you're downtown Port Elgin or Southampton and you're walking by and you're going to go in and start shopping. It's a destination oriented place, so they don't anticipate there being a lot of traffic. But nevertheless, it's a good place to be, because they are going to be offering their canoe rental and kayak rental and shuttle services. Now, the hunters themselves, I'm quite aware, because I was involved to a very small extent a few years ago with them. They were proposing something that would have been generating probably a lot more traffic, which was a wedding venue, and I think they had operated a few times, and I don't know how that ended, but I know they ended up not getting their approval. So it's kind of an interesting comment to make, that they're concerned about traffic, when in fact they were probably going to be generating a lot more traffic at a specific time than this ever would. But anyways, really hoping this can be worked out outside of a tribunal hearing. And that's it for my presentation, Mr. Mayor. And again, I think Tim would like to say a word or two.
Sure. Mr. Thorne, do you have some comments you'd like to make?
Yes. Hello, Mayor Luke. Do you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Hello. This is Tim from Thorncrest Outfitters, and just a couple of words, because Ron and Barbara really laid this out well for us. But we do environmentally friendly programming, and we're trying to create a new facility down here. Really, the purpose of today is to try to get this land back to its purposes that were used almost 200 years ago. And really, I just wanted to say something that didn't add a little bit more about history, but that really our country was founded on businesses like this. companies like the Northwest Company or the Hudson Bay Company that started in these kind of locations, doing sort of what we're doing. And that's all we really want to do is reestablish what's been going on for the last couple hundred years. We're pretty proud to say that we do have a lot of support in it. We do have one neighbor who does have some questions about the legal process and some of the access. However, like Ron and Barbara said, we dream of having huge volumes to our super duper store. But unfortunately, we are just a canoe and kayak shop and in a remote area, and it probably will just be what it is. This Carlisle Street was used for that main thoroughfare. So if anything, it can handle the kind of volumes that we dream of it having. But like I said, that's probably not going to be the case. If anything, we might even see a little bit of a reduction in traffic as we won't have to make quite as many trips ourselves down into the core of Southampton and clutter up downtown Southampton with our canoe and kayak trailers. So really, Ron and Barbara said everything I need to say. We're just hoping this project gets some support from council and that we can get everything taken care of here pretty quickly so that we can get this opened up. This is really a bit of a COVID recovery kind of project for us and the public. And we hope we can get this going for the spring. So thanks for hearing me out and thanks for your questions and concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Much appreciated. So before I go to members of council, I'll just ask the planner, the clerk, I just want to be clear that there aren't any members of the public who wish to speak to council about this file.
That is correct. There are no further members wishing to speak. Thanks.
Okay, thank you then. So we will close the public portion of the meeting now then. We'll go to comments from members. We'll start with the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I think this is a great project. For as many years as I've been in Southampton, I've never known anything to be down there. It's always been almost a derelict house. I've never seen any agriculture down there. So to bring this back to the state that it wasn't in is fantastic. I know Thorncrest does a lot of business, and this will help them with that business being down close to an entry point and exit point off of the Saugeen. Traffic isn't that big. A lot of people go down and fish. So I really want to see how this happens. My one question is, for the inn, will there be ample parking? And you said what, Tim, there's four rooms at the inn?
Thanks for the questions. We actually have 8 rooms, and between the parking that we have here beside the home and for the new outfitter shop, it should well conquer that. There's a plan laid out that lays out all the spots, and if anybody's got any input, we're open for that too. Thank you.
No, there's a lot of land there. It's never really been used in the 50 years I've been going down to Denny's Dam. So I think this is a great use, and I look forward to seeing what you bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor and Councillor Grace after that.
My question is very simple, Mr. Mayor, through you to the planner. When's this coming back for final discussion at the council level? And if this ends up going to the tribunal, what's the time frames around that? That's all I've read the application. I have no questions about the application really. I just wondering about timing.
Any thoughts from the planner? And then I see Mr. Davidson. But
Yeah.
have any comments on that first, Barbara?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we are hoping to bring it back in April. We do have a couple of applications scheduled for March, so it would have to be April.
What about the tribunal? Is that, I heard Ron say tribunal.
Yeah, well, it's been appealed to the county's approval of the official plan amendment has been appealed to the LPAT now. Barbara, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Davidson in a second, but Barbara, do you have any comments about how long the tribunal process is these days? I see Karina Smith coming on too. Does anybody have a comment to that?
Yeah, can't say for sure, Mr. Mayor, how long it's going to take before we get to a hearing at the Ontario Land Tribunal. It will be a couple of months.
Okay, Mr. Davidson.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of months times 3 or 4. The tribunal, if it's a one-day hearing, from what my experience has been recently, they might get it in within 6 months. If it's a 2 or 3 day hearing, you're probably looking at 8 or 9 months. Just quickly here, there will be a pre-hearing, if you want to call it that, where they'll try to they don't try to settle things, but they try to work out the issues and talk about which experts are coming. It's an expensive process from here on in.
Ron, Mr. Mayor, it's you to Ron. Just I want to talk about the tribunal a bit, and it is costly, very costly. And what's the determining factor here? Whether it goes to that tribunal or not? Fill me in. Help me understand.
Yeah. So the tribunal only has to be convinced that there's that it's a legitimate appeal. So it's not frivolous, vexatious, or for the purposes of delay. So if they're satisfied, then they'll hear it. Very, very, very seldom would a tribunal refuse an application. When it gets to a pre-hearing, they may kind of suggest to no, I'm not saying in this case, because I want to be careful what I say. I've been involved in pre-hearings in the past where the hearing officer has made it clear that, you kind of got to bring a gun to a gunfight, but you don't have to. That's the thing. I mean, there'll be planners and lawyers involved, but there doesn't have to be, which is an unfortunate thing.
So Ron, I just want to understand this process, Mr. Mayor. This is important for this council, I think, to understand the costs associated. So there was an appeal, obviously, and which has created the need for the going to the tribunal, and the costs associated with that. Who pays all those costs?
Okay, well, so I guess first of all, the county will have to determine if they're representing themselves. Presumably they will, but I can't speak for that. And I apologize, Mr. Mayor, for even maybe saying that. Same with the town. Your council has to make a decision, and then if that's appealed, then you'll have to decide if you're appealing, if you're going to represent yourself, or send representation to the hearing. If you don't send representation, obviously Mr. Thorne will have to. And if you do send legal representation, quite often the town of Saugeen Shores has done in the past is if you're on the same side as the applicant, there'll be a cost sharing of some sort.
Okay, so anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to 9 months, Ronnie.
I'd be pushing 9, yes. Okay. And Tim doesn't want to hear that. I've already broken that news to him.
Well, I just think it's important for this council to know what we're faced with as a planning committee. I think it's important to know the costs and timing and delays, and if it's approved or disapproved. I want to be clear about the process. Thank you.
Just want to clarify too, so no one who's listening in is not clear. The what's been appealed already is the county's decision on the official plan. So no decision by the town of Saugeen Shores is subject to any appeal. It's a county matter this time, and there's no decision has been made on this file by the town, and so it's possible it will not be appealed. And so it's important to be clear that we're not facing an appeal at this time. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I don't know if Barbara wants to answer this question or Ron, but I came across a term which I had to look up. I didn't know the definition of it. The MDS formula, which I learned means the minimum distance separation formula. And I wondered if either Barbara or Ron wanted to talk about what that means and how it applies to this particular situation, because it was something that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing had a concern about and specifically wanted to know about. So if somebody could speak to that, please.
If I may, I'll keep this extremely brief. So minimum distance separation is simply setback from adjacent barns. So down in Toronto, they probably saw the application, read that the lands are designated agricultural, and assumed it's an agricultural area. There are no barns. I drove around. I could be wrong. I'm going to say, because I put it in writing, that there's no barns within a kilometer of the subject property. So there's no way there's going to be a land use odor I'm sorry, a land use conflict pertaining to odor, because that's what minimum distance separation does. So there's no concern there.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there further questions or comments from members of the committee? I think I had a question for the planner. I wonder, has the county has done what they call leer mapping in preparation for the new official plan to assess agricultural lands and decide whether or not some of the lands that have been designated prime agriculture are indeed actually prime agriculture, if not, or if some of them would be better designated rural. Have we done that mapping? We have done that mapping in this area. I know. What does that mapping say about this piece of property? Does it, are we lining up for a situation where the new official plan would also show this as being prime agriculture? Or are we heading to a place where it's actually going to be designated rural anyway?
Yes, so currently it is a prime agricultural area. Now, with respect to the new official plan, I'm not sure where we are headed in terms of this specific site, but it is a small site. So I could look into that and give you feedback at the next meeting.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I just wondered if there was, if we had in this particular location, if we looked at that yet and made a determination, because I think it's quite clear that this piece of property is not and has never been agriculture or agricultural. It's before it was what it is now. It was really more industrial in nature as part of the mill and the dam. And I mean, it was a very heavy industrial site for quite a part of its history, at least since European settlement. So I think it's anything but agriculture, but anyway, that's besides the point. I think it would be very good. I think, Barbara, if we could see this recommendation come back soon. I think given the situation that Mr. Thorn is facing here, council owes a decision to the Thorns so that they can advance through the rest of the process, however long that process is going to be. I don't want to subject them to any more delays as a result of this council's process. I'm not hearing a lot of conversation about the merits of the application. So I would be very keen, to see this recommendation come back to Saugeen Shores Council quickly. I'm hopeful that you can make that happen. Perhaps shuffle some of the work that we're doing or something, or find a way to do that. I think there's no reason for further delay from us. So I put that to staff. Perhaps you can work on advancing this to the recommendation stage.
Okay.
Yep. Did you have a comment to that, Barbara? Sorry.
Yes, I had your comment, Mr. Mayor. So we'll take it into consideration. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, then. So if there's nothing further, then that brings us to the end of the public meeting. And on this subject, of course, council is not making any decision on this matter this evening. It will return to us for a decision at a future date. And Barbara, perhaps you could, just before we finish off, let people know who may be listening, if they want more information on this file or want to be kept informed, where they can contact you to make that connection.
Yes, so we welcome comments at the email link that I'll provide to you. You can submit comments to bcplpe@brucecounty.on.ca.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the end of that. And now we're on to item 7, reports of municipal officers and committees. And the first item there is 7.2, a general government report and a staff report to declare land surplus, part of 229 Turner Street. And we'll turn it over to the clerk for the report.
Thank you, and through you. So this report recommends declaring a portion of the lands located at 229 Turner Street surplus to the municipality's needs. And we're doing this for the purpose of fulfilling a term of the minutes of settlements between the town and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nations land claim. There is a sanitary sewer pump station located in the northwest corner of the property, and the pump station land would be approximately 23 meters by 31 meters. and we will be retaining the land on which the pump station is located on. The remainder of the lands can be declared surplus to the town's needs, and public notice will be given of the town's intent to declare the land surplus for the purpose of transferring to the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Okay, thank you, Linda. The recommendation is that part of 229 Turner Street, being part of TP Park Lot 2, South Birch, known as the Oak Birch Park, be declared surplus. Is there questions or comments from members of the committee? I don't see any. I just make the comment that this is an important part of the settlement of the long-standing land claim between the town of Saugeen Shores and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. It's critical to recognize or to contribute land as part of that settlement, and the town of Saugeen Shores is doing that, and that is the reason for this settlement. It's a good news story and helps to move our relationship with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation into a better place than it has been in the past. So with that, I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Okay. And that moves us on to 7.3, infrastructure and development, and Z 2021-068 for Daniel David Payne, 31 Bruce Road 25. And there is a planner's report with this one, so I will turn it over to our planner, Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you once again, Mr. Chair. I'll just share my screen. So this application was before committee for a public meeting on November 15th of last year. And at the time, committee did not express any concerns. There were no comments from members of the public. The subject land is 31 Bruce Road 25, situated to the west of Highway 21 in Saugeen Township. The site is 2.47 acres and is occupied by a single detached dwelling with an attached garage. Mr. Payne has submitted an application to sever the property to create a residential building lot. So the severed land is shown in the yellow, and the green is the retained portion. The current zoning on the site is planned development, and it only permits existing land uses. It does not allow for new uses. For the severed lot to be developed, an amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to change the zone to allow to a zone that allows for the intended use. So in conjunction with the consent application, the subject zoning application has been filed. The purpose of this application is to change the zoning on the parcel to be severed from planned development to residential first density R1. No change is proposed to the retained parcel. The Bruce County Transportation and Environmental Services has no objection to this proposal. Town staff have commented that they have no objection, provided the development does not limit the future development potential in the area. They've commented that this part of town has a lot of long-term potential to provide new growth opportunities in Saugeen Shores, and development which may limit the potential shall be discouraged. They have also commented that they will be seeking 5% cash in lieu of parkland dedication, and that services shall be installed to the new lot at the expense of the proponent. Now, those two last bullets, they are standard conditions that are imposed for consent applications when there's new lots being created. So we'll include those two bullets as the conditions when we go through the consent application. The Ministry of Transportation has commented that the property falls within the Highway 21 permit control area, and that MTO approval is required for future site works, new construction, or signs. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority has commented that this application is acceptable. It does not contain any environmental features. As a summary, this zoning amendment application is seeking to change the zone on the severed parcel from planned development to residential first density R1. Approval of the application will facilitate a consent application, which is seeking to create a new building lot for residential purposes, specifically a single detached dwelling. The recommendation is approval of this application. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. So it is recommended that the committee approve the zoning bylaw amendment application Z 2021-068 and that the bylaw be forwarded to council for adoption. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Mayette.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that I'll be supporting this recommendation. This is a good use of land and a good infill situation that Mr. Payne has brought forward, and I wish him well. I do have just one question. The planner, Ms. Mugabe, you said that there would be cash in lieu sought in lieu of parkland dedication. With the 5% that you referred to, would that be based on a selling price that Mr. Payne may get for the property in the future?
And I might have to defer to Mr. Posner for that question. I know that the 5% will be based on the value of the severed parcel. So he can now confirm if that is correct, please.
Yes, we don't, if I may, Mr. Mayor, we don't have a set amount for the 5%. We just calculated at the time the application is, very close to its decision, look at comparable properties and based on past practice, be as aggressive as we can to make sure we get the maximize or optimize rather the parkland contribution.
So it would be perhaps based on a similar impact value for a property in the area?
Yes, we're fortunate that there's a lot of sales in the area and have lots of comparables we can, but we definitely reach out to MPAC if we need their assistance for unique circumstances. I don't think this will be a problem finding a value. So.
Okay, very good.
Are there further questions or comments? Just one comment from me. I support the application, and this is a bit of a sidebar, but I'm a little concerned by the comment from the MTO that this is within their permit control area. It's on County Road 25, which connects to Highway 21 within the connecting link of the town of Saugeen Shores. I mean, who was it that paid to improve County Road 25? Not the MTO. Who is it that's working on the intersection there? Not the MTO. They're going to constrain our property owners by applying another level of permitting to develop their lands on roads where we're doing all the work and where we assume the responsibility. The MTO should get out of the way and let us develop in these lands since we're spending all the money and doing all the work. And frankly, they are actively constraining development on the south end of Port Elgin to a great extent. And frankly, it's, contrary to the best interests of the town of Saugeen Shores and the people of the community and to the interests of the province of Ontario. And one might think the MTO would act in the interest of the province rather than against it. Anyway, my thoughts. Vice Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say here, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for those words. I think it's really disturbing to me too about the MTO. That property at the south end, the old Tri-Par golf course, it's ridiculous, utterly ridiculous what they're going through to try and develop that property. The MTO is getting in the way. So thank you for your words, and they're right on. Thank you.
Perhaps we can at a more appropriate time, not related to this application, but have a conversation about how we speak to the MTO about this issue because it's becoming a problem. Anyway, back to the recommendation at hand. You've heard it. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. All right, that moves us then on to item 2, the staff report of the Summerside subdivision, Phase 9 pre-servicing agreement and Phase 10 subdivision agreement, and the supervisor development services.
Yes, thank you. This is exciting for me to present in some ways, I guess. In some ways, maybe more mundane than I'm, needing to realize is that we've got 2 phases of the Summerside subdivision, one directly as a result of council's previous encouragement, let's say, for the developer to bring online rental development properties. So phase 10, and I'll start in reverse order. Phase 10 is block 55 in the draft plan of subdivision, which is a block that could accommodate up to 330 rental apartments. To service block 55, though, the developer needs to build the services through phase 9. And so we're bringing forward jointly both phase 9 and 10, the servicing for phase 9, which is the underground works, sanitary, storm, water, road works that will serve block 10 and phase 10. And it'll also, I guess coincidentally bring on a line about 60 single detached dwelling lots as well. So I'm just presenting the report with those 2 agreements attached.
Very good. Thank you. There is a recommendation. I'll read it, then we can take questions. It's recommended that council pass a bylaw to authorize a pre-servicing agreement for the Summerside subdivision phase 9, and that council pass a bylaw to authorize a subdivision agreement for the Summerside subdivision phase 10. Questions or comments? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, this is a good news story. I'll certainly be supporting this recommendation. The quicker the better to approve this pre-service agreement. 330 units. Various Construction just filed a planning application to Bruce County for 210 rental units. Skyline, 170 units just a month ago at this council table. 702 apartment units. 702 apartment units in the last 6 weeks. Stats Canada just came out with their numbers. 0%. Yeah, thank you, Councilor Matt. You're right on. Like, this is a great news story. 702 units. Stats Canada just came out with their numbers. 0% vacancy rate. It was 0.5 of 1%. It's now 0 in Saugeen Shores. We wonder why the rents are so high. Wouldn't it be great? And I know, Mr. Mayor, your feeling on this is let them build them. And I get that. Let them build them. I only hope that all 3 of these developers get to CMHC, secure some financing. And wouldn't it be great if we get 20% of those units, 140 units roughly, below market rent with subsidized rents? That's where those 702 units need to head. I think you're right, Mr. Mayor. Get them built. But Jay, I hope the developers get to CMHC. I hope you're encouraging that, and I hope that 20% of below market rent happens. If we could get 20% of 700 units below market rent, we're on our way to starting to fix this problem in Saugeen Shores with below market rental units. That application wait list in the county is 300 deep, 300 people, 300 families, and actually 315 now are waiting for housing accommodation. This can't happen quick enough. I only hope that these rental units include below market rent. So this is a good news story. Jay, thanks for all your great work. And I just want to throw out a big thank you. Brad Pride has done Omen's work here, and he doesn't sometimes get enough credit. I know he's a developer, he's a landowner, but he's helped make this whole thing work with Skyline and with this company. I understand, Jay, can we release where they're from or not? Jay, is that public knowledge yet? But okay, you went back off, maybe we can't. Brad Pride deserves a lot of credit here for bringing these, for the sale of those lands and pushing hard for rental accommodation. We've seen a lot of single family dwelling units in this community built, and we're getting into high density finally. And we've made some good decisions on 3, 4, 5, 6 stories. Anyways, I'm going on here, but it's just a good news story. I'll be supporting.
Yep. Further questions or comments? Councilor Dubinsky.
Yes, I echo, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo Vice Deputy Mayor Mike Myatt's comments. I may be getting way ahead of myself here. I think it's an exciting development. I was out there on Saturday just to look at the land to see what was going on, and it was very impressive. And what I saw on the report, and I guess this is through to you, to Jay Posner, that one item said they can't remove trees unnecessarily. And when I was out there, I didn't see any trees. So will the developer be obligated to put in trees at a later date? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, and you're noting some of the standard clauses of our agreement, which is good to note. It's makes me see that you're reading it. That's good. But yes, there are two components here. Where one is during the development of the single-family detached, each new lot is required to have a tree planted at least in its front yard. That's always a bit of a struggle if homeowners don't want it, and so we have a bit of an internal process, but that is a requirement. On the block for the apartments, it's subject to site plan control. And so there's another opportunity for us to come up, work with the proponent to develop a landscaping plan, which will include things like tree planting, hedgerows, other types of hardscape landscape. So yes, there's also another component for tree planting at that time.
Okay. Further questions or comments? I don't see any. It is and I won't belabor it, but it is a really good news story of these high density units, and the number that the Vice Deputy Mayor put out, 700 units. And they, as you said, Mike, they can't be constructed too soon. I mean, we have to get these built. And my hope is that one thing that we can do, I agree that these developers, I know these developers, and I know they are looking at the CMHC approach and other approaches, and I know that they'll be keen to bring them in as cheaply as they can. Hopefully we can also find ways to leverage provincial and county dollars to subsidize rents for people moving into some of these facilities, so that we can help those people. We can create the units, get them built, and then find ways to help the individuals who are moving into them to afford to live there. So anyway, hopefully we're going to start to see construction soon on some of these. We need them. And it's exciting. One question, I just quickly, a minor point, Jay, but on phase 9, the street name selected for phase 9, and I mentioned it last time. I know seems to be an increasing concern. I'm hearing from members of the public now about new streets and how the names are being arrived at, so maybe at the point at which council is making a decision that sort of codifies that street name, it would be good if you could come back and just give us the provenance of the street name, and so council can be clear that it has some community significance, and we certainly encourage all developers to draw on that list from the Heritage Committee to name streets. I think that's a good approach. But anyway, with that, you've heard the recommendation, so I'll ask all in favor. It's carried. Okay, so now we are on to communications for information. There are 7 items there. Anybody have any questions or comments around any of those or discussion? I don't see any. So that moves us, that moves us to the end of the committee of the whole. So I'll ask for statements by members and the deputy mayor.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the vice deputy mayor.
No, nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
Nothing from me this evening. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Grace.
Nothing from me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
This is going quick. Councillor Davinsky.
Nothing from me, sir.
Oh man, Councillor Carr.
Won't break the trend. Nothing for me either.
Councillor Mayette, anything about the fish? Any fish that's going on this week?
You know I do. I actually spent a whole day on Saturday down in Kincardine at the Kincardine Trout Hatchery with my colleagues and friends in the Lake Huron Fishing Club fin clipping, and we had actually a couple of young lads. Shout out to Owen Richards and to Blake Lamont of the Lamont fame, who helped us out. And fin clipping, if anybody doesn't know, when we release rainbow trout into the wild, we are required by the Ministry of Natural Resources to clip their adipose fin, which is the little tiny fin between their dorsal fin and their tail fin. And some scientists say it doesn't serve any purpose, but we clip those fins off so that when the fish come back in 3, 4, 5, or 10 years time up the river and somebody catches one, or the ministry catches them, we can tell if they were one of our stocked fish or whether they were a naturally reproduced fish. So that sounds like a pretty simple job, but we have about 60,000 of them that need to be clipped. So we spent the whole day. We had about 25 people there, and we managed to get through about 20,000 on Saturday. So if anybody wants to learn more about it, or any young people, we had these two grade 9 folks with me on Saturday who are coming back again on Saturday. It's a great opportunity for high school kids to learn a little about fish and get some community hours in at the same time. So we're doing it all day again in Kincardine on Saturday, the 5th of March. And then in 2 weeks' time, that'll be I think it's the 19th of March, we're going to be doing it at the Port Elgin Hatchery, where we have about 10,000 rainbow trout as well. So it's a good way to learn a bit about fishing and give back to the fishery. So there you go.
Very good. Thank you. So 2 things from me this evening. The first is to introduce council and the community to the town of Saugeen Shores' new Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Jim Bundeshu. And Jim is joining the town after 13 years at the County of Elgin as Director of Financial Services, Purchasing, IT, and Provincial Offences Courts. And prior to that, he worked in the automotive industry, improving systems and employee safety. And so I, on behalf of council, want to welcome you, Jim. Welcome to the town of Saugeen Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to join the team. What initially drew me to be interested in the area was just the natural heritage of Saugeen Shores. But the more I learn and I see how the community is developing and where council wants to take it, I'm excited to be part of the team that's going to help council meet its objectives.
Very good. Well, we're excited to have you. Thanks for being here tonight. And you're going to be seeing lots more of us.
I hope.
That's right. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
The second thing I wanted to mention was just on behalf of the town of Saugeen Shores, and I know all members of council will agree with me or be with me on this, is I wanted to express solidarity with the people of Ukraine and all of the residents of our community of Ukrainian descent. The town of Saugeen Shores condemns the actions of Russia, and certainly I think it's a matter, although we are a small community, a long way away, it's a matter that affects all of humanity, and certainly, as I say, we stand in solidarity with Ukraine. Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. Can I just add one thing? Sorry, I want to say thank you to Janice Stubbs and our acting Director of Corporate Services. Janice, thank you. You've filled in admirably over the last several months when we lost our Director of Corporate Services, and you're carrying 2 portfolios, and it was a lot of work, Janice. And you've been also great on the Lamont Sports Park team and staying with us. And I just wanted to thank you, Janice, for all the great work you've done, and you filled in so well. And it was a big job, so thank you. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Thank you, Janice.
Thanks.
Okay. That brings us to the end then of the committee of the whole. Ask for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Carr, all in favor? We stand adjourned, and council will convene at 8 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor, we have all council members present, and we're reached 8 o'clock. You may reconvene the council meeting. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I'll call to order this regular council meeting, and the second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask a member if you have one of those to declare. Seeing none, you can do that at any time. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no public meetings. So that moves on to item 5, adoption of the minutes. And I have a resolution that council will adopt the minutes of the council meetings of February 14, 2022, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of February 14, 2022 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Davinsky and Vice Deputy Mayor. Any questions or comments to any of those sets of minutes? Councilor Davinsky?
Yes, just a correction on the council minutes of February 14th, the first one. I'm not shown as being in attendance, and I was there.
Okay, so noted.
Okay. So we'll just change the resolution to as amended. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then all in favor? That's carried. All right, then that moves us on to reports of the Committee of the Whole. There's 3 on this evening. The first one is a general government report on the 2022 business plan. And there's a resolution. The council adopt the Town of Saugeen Shores 2022 business plan. Is the mover and seconder. Moved by Mayette, seconded by Grace. Any questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, now we're on to the second report, an infrastructure and development report on the community improvement plan policy and implementation. And there is a resolution. The council endorsed the community improvement plan policy implementation report to support both housing and new business investment priorities in Saugeen Shores. And the council endorsed the community improvement plan framework application guide to support an objective evaluation of proposals. And the council allocate $25,000 from the newly established housing reserve to support participation in a 2022 pilot of the small incremental investments in housing opportunities as outlined. Is there a mover and seconder, the Vice Deputy Mayor and the Deputy Mayor? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, and the final one, a planning committee report on the Plan the Bruce discussion paper, and there is a resolution. The council endorsed the comments on the plan the Bruce business discussion paper as outlined in the staff report. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councilor Grace. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, and then we're on to bylaws, and there are 4 bylaws there for your consideration, 5 actually. Does anyone wish to consider any one of them individually? Seeing none request for that, then I will read the resolution. It's resolved that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 28th day of February, 2022. 1/11/2022 being a bylaw for the assumption of works and to establish roads as public highways on plans of subdivisions 3M-244 and 3M-247. 2/12/2022 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of a sublease agreement with Joan Johnson for the Harbor Light Restaurant. 3/13/2022 being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with 2786803 Ontario Incorporated Rad Adventures to deliver the Learn to Ride and mountain biking programs. 4/14/2022 being a bylaw to authorize a memorandum of understanding with the JK Developments GP2 Limited, and 5/15/2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meetings of the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by Grace. Any questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay. And so that brings us to the end of the council meeting, and I have a resolution that this regular council meeting on February 28, 2022 hereby adjourns at 8:04 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Smith, seconded by Mayette. All in favor? Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.